I really believe that vision is a huge driver of giving us what we really want and desire.
Welcome to the Sharing Passion and Purpose podcast, a weekly podcast providing career and creative inspiration to help you build a purpose-filled life. If you're interested in tapping into your creative potential, pursuing a career with passion, and building on your biggest and best resource, yourself, please join me on this path. I'm your host, Nancy Moore, and I want you to know that I'm on this journey with you. So let's get started. Before we jump into this episode, I just wanted to remind you to be following Sharing Passion and Purpose on social media. On Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn, it's at Sharing Passion and Purpose. I will also share that we have a great guest for May. So the Conversations with Passion and Purpose will be visiting with an amazing lady in May. And if you are not following on social media, then you won't know about it. Tickets are limited. It's a great time to network and connect with other women, learn and grow. So join me on social media so you'll be in the loop. You can also go to sharingpassionandpurpose.com, sign up for Nancy's Nudge of Encouragement, and you'll be on my email list. And those people on the email list are also in the loop. So I appreciate you doing that. And now here's the episode. Sandy Redmond has many roles, including proud wife and mother. During this discussion, you'll hear why she's a proud wife and what led to her becoming a certified relationship coach who works exclusively with women. A little about Sandy. She and her husband have been married for 35 years and it hasn't always been easy. She was halfway into her marriage with 4 small children and was desperate for a better relationship with her husband. They loved each other, but she knew that their relationship could be so much more. You'll learn about their struggles, including her husband firing their marriage counselor, and what led to them having the incredible marriage that they have today. So I hope that you enjoy this conversation with Sandy. Okay, Sandy, this is so much fun to get to visit with you formally because we met in kind of an unconventional way.
Yes.
At Starbucks, and you had the most beautiful daughter and you're gorgeous yourself and the cutest little dog. And my sister and I ended up talking to you guys, and now she's the proud owner of a mini golden doodle. Not that you were doing any sales pitch, but anyway. So, well, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Nancy, for having me on. And I just think it's so amazing how literally we were just both out there having coffee on the patio, and I happened to have my dog with us. And you came up and started petting her and asking about the dog. And the next thing you know, we're like, wow, I really like you. And you're like, yeah, I like you. And we exchanged numbers and information, and here I am. Yeah, so it's just really, it's kind of a God connection, I believe.
I believe, yes, I absolutely believe the same. It's interesting how people come into your life, and we have a unique story for sure.
We definitely do.
Yes. So I want people to get to know you a little bit better. You are a wife and a mother and have so many different things going, but I thought if you can, in your own words, just share a little about yourself.
Well, I was born and raised in Southern California, or as people call it, SoCal now.
Yes.
And I moved to Tulsa when I was a junior in high school. My parents, my dad was a car dealer, owned a Chrysler dealership out in Southern California, and felt a real call to ministry and came out here and wanted to go to Bible school and get, trained to really launch a ministry to help business leaders. And so we moved out here, and it was interesting because I've had a lot of people ask me, was that hard as a junior in high school, moving and changing high schools? But I was just really excited about the change. I was excited about moving to Tulsa. And I have never looked back. I love Tulsa, and I love this community, and I love the people here. So, yeah, it's been a real blessing. And then I have, I've been married for 35 years.
Wow.
And I have 4 beautiful children, adult children.
That's so neat. So on your Instagram, I thought I'll just mention your first thing, you know how you can have something in the about section? The first thing that you have is proud wife of, and your husband's tag. And I love that you have that on there because it signifies where you are in your relationship, and it hasn't always been easy over the years. And so I would love for you to kind of share a little bit, because I know this story is going to resonate with many people, because I have friends that are going through different things, and even people who have ended up going through divorce. You wear many hats, but one of them is a marriage counselor.
Yeah, actually a marriage coach. I'm a
Laura. Oh, thank you.
Yes, no, that's fine. I'm a Laura Doyle certified relationship coach. And really the difference between counseling and coaching is that I really focus on where you want to go. I focus on your dream and your vision for your marriage and for your life, and then work with you on how to get there. And a lot of times counselors focus on problems and trauma and hurts and pain, and I don't ignore that fact, but I really want to focus more on the solutions. Like let's not, all that happened, but let's focus on where do you want to go? Who do you want to be? What do you want your marriage to look like? And so that's really primarily the difference between what I do and maybe a counselor does. And I only work with women, because that's who I know. I'm a woman, and I know how we're wired. I don't know how a guy's wired. I can guess, but I really focus on women. We have different needs, and we have different desires. So, and we're nurturers at the heart of who we are.
So if you can share a little about your journey, because I feel like you're pretty open to that, kind of the what you went through early on in your marriage, so people kind of know where you're coming from, and then we'll talk about, maybe they'll probably see why you ended up becoming a marriage coach. But if you could share a little about that.
Well, Tim and I met, I was 23. He was just turning 26. There's 3 years difference between us. And I was dating one of his good friends. And it was kind of it's a fun little story, but he saw me and was like, oh my goodness, she's great. If he doesn't know who he has, he actually said this to someone, I'm going to go after her. Well, the good thing was we weren't super serious. His friend that I had gone out with a few times. And then I had a girlfriend who said, oh gosh, you need to start dating Tim. If there's any way, he's incredible. He was the leadership guru at ORU, and he's just an amazing person. And she just told me all these things. So it kind of piqued my interest. And I had an accounting question, and I ended up contacting him. The next thing I know, he's asking me out on a date, and the rest is history. So we dated for about 1.5 years, and I just knew he was just an amazing man, a strong leader, very accomplished, CPA. He was working for a software company that was just on the ground floor, and it was a software company that made software for CPAs. And so we were just really in love. And in fact, so much so, I just love this story. When I was walking down the aisle and getting married, he just raised up his hands and just gave out a loud, whoop, and just started crying, as I'm walking down, and I was just falling. And I just think, wow, how amazing. We just started off just really in love, and we were both very busy. I helped to manage a nonprofit, and he's working for this software company that was growing very, very quickly. And then we decided to start a family early on. He's one of 11 kids. I was one of 5. We love family. We love kids. So 5 months after we were married, I got pregnant, and we had 4 kids, and things started kind of, getting interesting when I started realizing, oh my gosh, he's really different than I am. I thought we were more similar, but we would just really get at odds with each other. And I would always go, Tim, why are you yelling at me? Why are you always yelling at me? And he'd go, I'm not yelling. I'm just trying to have a conversation with you. And he was one of 11 kids, and used to a wrestler, 7 brothers, very strong, which was so attractive to me. But then when we were married, his strength and his mannerism really annoyed me. And I was like, oh my gosh, what's going on here? So that was, but we kind of made it work. And, I started reading a lot of marriage books and relationship books and different things. And, we went to marriage seminars that our church would hold. And all of that helped. But then things started getting really rough when the company sold. He started traveling and working. We really launched our own nonprofit, and he was traveling over 100,000 miles a year. And I had 4 kids, and I was trying to just take care of the home front and doing everything. And I had this desire to have it all perfect. And so I wanted to be perfect. I wanted my kids to be perfect. I wanted the perfect marriage. And I didn't realize how exhausted perfectionism is. And I started pushing Tim away, and not intentionally, just with my criticism, my lack of respect toward him, my just my high standards, and he just felt like he could never win. I was always bothered and upset and wanting things done my way, and I thought I was going to be this amazing wife. I mean, I was the oldest of 5 kids, and I just thought I had all these great skills. And I'll never forget, it was probably about the 17th year of our marriage. I just sat at our kitchen table, and I was looking out the window, and I was just weeping. And I was literally thinking, oh my gosh, how did we get here? I don't know if I even want to go on. If this is the way it's going to be, do I want to keep going on like this? I had always envisioned just growing old and having a happy marriage, and I was miserable.
Mm-hmm. So at that point, what changed?
Well, I say, Tim and I, the beautiful thing about my husband is he's always loved me. And I always say, even in my bad old days, and not to say he wasn't perfect either, but I would say I was the one that really, I had more issues with him than he had with me. Let's just put it that way. And so what really changed, we started going to marriage counseling. Mm-hmm. And we came across a great counselor. We actually tried a couple, and the first one Tim fired. And that for me was like, oh my gosh, see how horrible this guy is. Like, Tim just got frustrated with him and said, this isn't working. I'm not coming back. We're not doing this to the counselor. And I was like, oh gosh, he's so rude. I'm thinking that, and not realizing how disrespectful I had been, even in the counselor's office. And he was really putting up a wall toward the disrespect that I was putting out there. And so we went to another person, and he was fantastic. And really, Tim and I both connected very well with him. And he really helped lead us and guide us in some very good skill sets. But I'll never forget, he asked me one time, he's like, Sandy, you have every reason in the world to leave. Because at the time, I had built up such a case against my husband. We had gone through some financial losses that I felt were very unnecessary. Tim was traveling a lot. I felt like he didn't understand me or know my needs or desires. And so, he's like, why are you staying in there? And I said, because I realized I really, really do love him. And I didn't want to destroy my kids' lives. And I didn't want to put them through that. And so something in me decided I am going to do whatever it takes to figure this out, because I am going to make this work. This is going to work. And it was shortly after that, a friend of mine gave me this book. And I had read lots of books on marriage and relationship, but for some reason, this book, when I was reading it, I felt like I was reading my story. And I connected so well with the author and with the skills that she put in the book to really help strengthen and transform a marriage, I started practicing a few of them and I started seeing change. I was like, oh my gosh, I've never seen such quick change. And she really helped me understand how my husband was wired. Like, for example, I don't know where, I never heard this, but I did not know that a man is, his main goal is to make us happy, like to make me happy. Like my husband has this deep desire to make sure that I am happy. Well, I thought he needed to make me happy, but I didn't realize I needed to make myself happy. And in doing that, that gave him a ton of joy. And, he loves it when I'm happy, and he loves it when I pursue things that bring me a lot of joy and pleasure. And I think being the oldest of 5 and always kind of a driver, I thought I had to do everything for everybody else and take care of everybody else, but I didn't take care of me very well. So that was one of the things that was brought out in the book, So I started even testing little things. Well, I wonder if Tim really wants to make me happy, And I would start noticing all these little things he was doing for me that when I was very critical and negative toward him, I couldn't see. It was like I had blinders on. Mm-hmm. But as soon as I started opening up the possibility that maybe he does want me happy, maybe he does love to make me happy, I started seeing how many things he does to really make me happy.
It's interesting what you choose to focus on. So we'll go back to when you said, I wanted my marriage to work, because that was actually, now that you're saying you're coming up on your 35th wedding anniversary, that was kind of the halfway point, but you were 17 years in. Mm-hmm. And so it could have gone very differently 17 years ago, but now you're able to say, in 2 weeks, we're going to celebrate our 35th wedding anniversary, which is incredible.
Well, I really believe that vision is a huge driver of giving us what we really want and desire. I had a real clear vision of what I wanted.
Yes.
I wanted to have a life-giving, passionate, fun, exciting marriage. And I wanted to have a family that was connected and that we could do life with and fun trips with our kids. And so I started finding things to help. Really, I start finding things actually, here a friend brought me a book. Things started coming into my life according to the vision I started having of what I really wanted. I got really clear what it was I wanted. And a beautiful example too was Tim's parents. They had been through quite a bit over their years of marriage, and I'll never forget celebrating their 40th wedding anniversary and knowing how much they had walked through, including the loss of 3 children, and almost throwing in the towel. And when we were at their 40th anniversary celebration that we as a family put on for them, I just wept and I went, this is what it's all about. At the end of my days, this is what I wanted. Mm-hmm. All the family gathered around, everyone celebrating, lots of love, but it had to be a decision of, that's what I want. And so somehow I'm going to figure out how to get there. Mm-hmm.
So who doesn't want to be in a passionate, life-giving, loving marriage? So what would be some tips? I love hearing this. And I feel like I have a great marriage, but still there's always,
there's always room for growth. There's always room for growth. I'm still, even as a marriage coach, and I am very immersed in this program that I'm in with the Laura Doyle program. We do practicums every week. I still coach some of the gals from our group every week. Laura Doyle has a podcast that I'm always listening to that every week. And all that to say, I'm still learning things. Mm-hmm. I'm still learning things about me. I'm still learning ways that I could show up better. Mm-hmm. And so, it's a journey. It's not like we have arrived. It's constantly a journey because we're always changing. Mm-hmm. Our spouses are changing. Our families are changing, especially as women. Don't you think as women, we have so much change that we have to embrace physically and life in general and motherhood and being wives. It's just like we're always having to change. We're always entering into a different season. Mm-hmm. And so it's just being open and willing to embrace learning skill sets that help us become better. So I love that. I love that you said that.
Well, tell us then maybe a couple of tips that you would give to people who are maybe, wanting to improve upon their marriage, or tips for women.
Okay. Well, I know for myself, the very first thing and skill that I really practiced was self-care. And we hear that term a lot, like, well, I'm going to do self-care. I'm going to get my nails done. I'm going to, do this or that. And that's all great. But what I didn't realize is I never had realized how important it was for me to take care of me. Mm-hmm. As a woman, I was always giving out to others. Mm-hmm. And I thought that is what I needed to do. But you can't give out if you don't have anything to give. So we have to take care of us first. It's the same concept of putting on the oxygen mask, on yourself first and then putting it on your child. You have to put on the oxygen mask of self-care. And what that meant for me was really going deep and finding things that gave me a lot of joy and pleasure, like doing things for me that brought me a lot of joy and pleasure. So I'm a fairly athletic person. I love being outside. Plus, I love connection. I love being with people. So one of the things I remember I first did was I joined a beginner's tennis group. I was like, you know what? I've never done anything for me as far as that. I'd work out and go to the gym and all that, but that was more like I have to because I have to keep my body in shape type of mentality, not just some frivolous thing of having fun. So I started doing tennis, and oh my goodness, I had so much fun. I had no idea. And plus I was doing it with other women, and we were having a lot of fun, and we were learning and growing and getting good exercise and laughing, and I just couldn't wait. Probably every day, but probably every 2 or 3 times a week, I would go and play tennis. And so my husband, after a year of me doing this, was like, what are you doing? You look like you're having so much fun. I want to go with you. I became a magnet because I was having so much fun. All of a sudden, he's like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I want to go with you. And he started playing tennis too. So when we do take care of ourselves, we become magnetic. When we're happy, it magnetizes people to ourselves. To us.
Yes.
We become a magnetic person. I'm always drawn to happy, life-giving people like you. I mean, I knew when we met at Utica, I'm like, oh my gosh, she's an amazing person. You just had a lot of joy. You're enthusiastic. You seem like you just really embraced life. And I didn't even know anything about you, but I knew that I wanted to get to know you better.
It's funny that you said that because I was the same. And I remember after we talked about the dog and I went and sat back with my sister, I thought, I don't want to miss the opportunity to get to know this woman because she just is such a joy. So then I went back and then introduced myself, and you said, I was thinking the same thing. Let's exchange numbers. And so, and I feel like our friendship will grow, but it's fun. That you saw that in me, that you recognize that in me, because I don't know that I recognize that in myself, but I'm positive and joyful, but I could see that in you as well. So that's interesting. So self-care is a big one.
Yes.
Okay. So do you have another one?
Really understanding that our men really want us to be happy.
Okay.
I think just when you start seeing that and you start finding that, it makes a world of difference. Like you're like, oh, maybe he's not so bad after all. He does have certain things that annoy me, and he approaches life differently because he's a man. He's a man's culture is different than a woman's culture. And so I know for myself, I decided to take on a challenge that my coach gave me, because before I became a coach, I joined the coaching program to be coached. I knew I wanted to improve myself, my life, and my skills. And so she kind of gave me a challenge because I was complaining to her one day about something my husband was doing. She goes, Sandy, what if you made a list of all his great qualities? And I said, well, I've done that, and he has amazing qualities. I said, I think I want to make a list of evidence of things that he does to make me happy. Like, so that like I can see evidence of ways that he is making me happy. And so I started every single day. I did it on notes on my phone in the morning when I'm drinking my coffee. I think back to the day before and I'd go, oh my gosh, he brought me coffee in bed this morning. Wow, that is amazing. He loves doing that. I don't know why, but he loves doing that.
Do you enjoy it?
I love it.
So you probably
yes.
praise him for
yes,
that.
I do.
And that praise, then he's
He feels
I like
good.
that.
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
I'm making her happy.
Yep. And then just a few things, but I mean, I would be like, oh, he went to the grocery store for me. I needed something and he called me on his way home and I said, oh, could you run to the store? And he's like, absolutely, I'll run to the store. And then he took me to dinner. I was like, oh, I'm going to be out late and I have, these errands to run. Oh, don't worry about making dinner, honey. I'll do it. And he would do the dishes after I cooked, and every day, just whatever it was, even if it was the same thing every day, if I saw something he was doing and I knew he was doing it to make my life better and to make me happy, I would keep a journal of that. I just keep charting it down. And I did that for 3 months. And I primarily did that so that I could change my mindset, because I knew my mindset was more geared to seeing the critical and what he wasn't doing. And I knew I needed to rewire my brain, my neurons that were, coming together that was drawn to criticism. And so I just really focused on those things that he was doing to make me happy. And for 3 months, I'd write it down. And after 3 months, it was coming up to our anniversary. And I thought, oh, I'm going to print those off. And I printed it off and I had 58 pages of things that he had done to make me happy.
In 3 months?
In 3 months.
Okay.
And I started crying. Like I just stood and looked at this all. I started reading them all and going, oh my gosh, this man really does want to make me happy. He's an incredible man. How have I been so critical and hard on him? Look at this. Is he perfect? No, but neither am I.
Mm-hmm.
And so I decided to give it to him for our anniversary. And I put it in a notebook. I put a cute little cover on it. And I handed it to him. You put it in a box and he opened it. And he's like started reading it. And he started crying in the restaurant. And he goes, Sandy, this is all I've ever wanted you to know. How much I love you. And I want you happy. And I was like, oh my gosh, there's the evidence right there.
Yeah.
And I would say from that point on, it's like a huge shift in our marriage. I mean, it went from good, because at the time I had been doing some of the skills for a few years, but it went to like just amazing, like a depth of love and appreciation for each other that I just sensed we did not have before. And so it just took it to a deeper, richer, meaningful relationship. And that's now become my main focus. It's not on the criticism so much. I get excited, and even now I'll chart down little things that he does. Oh, he did this and he did that, and oh my gosh, he did this. Oh, he loves to make me happy.
I love that.
Isn't
That's what you're seeking, and that's what you'll see. Whatever you're seeking, if you're seeking the negative, that's what you're going to see. If you're seeking the positive, that's what you're going to see. And even if it starts out slowly, maybe he does one thing a day.
Exactly.
That's one thing. And
exactly.
That you can be thankful for and happy about, and then praise him for, and then I guess it just snowballs.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is, I stopped getting on his paper about stuff. I always say, when you're on somebody else's paper, you're not taking responsibility for your own life. You're trying to get someone else to change instead of changing yourself. It's easy to criticize and complain. It's a lot harder to tap into what it is you really want and your own desires. I really started tapping into what is it that I want and what are my desires, and staying off of his paper and just letting him be him. So I started noticing all of a sudden when I started doing that, he was like, oh, I have some things I could work on. He got his own coach. And he started doing things, and he started changing. which was incredible. Oh my gosh, I've always wanted him to do that, and even whined about it. You should get a coat. You should get it. You should get that. You should do this. And now all of a sudden, I finally let go of it, relinquish control, let him manage and own his own life, and then he takes responsibility for his life. So it's really wild.
That's amazing. I love that.
Thank you.
Yeah, because that wasn't on you.
Right.
And when it's his decision too, and then he sees what's kind of, I guess, the progress of his efforts making you so happy, that's awesome.
Yep.
And making himself too, probably building on himself so you guys could have such a great marriage. So the one that you have today. Okay, so do you want to mention that book as a resource?
Yes.
That you've referenced?
I would love to. It's called The Empowered Wife. The Empowered Wife, and it's written by Laura Doyle. And she also has a podcast called The Empowered Wife Podcast. I don't want to compete with your podcast.
No,
it's
totally...
It's all on marriage. All she does is interview women on marriage and different things. But they're very encouraging, and it just really outlines. She has 6 main skills that she really focuses on, and even in our coaching that we really focus on, and those 6 skills really help transform your own life. It's really about you, and then in doing that, it transforms your marriage. So anyway, yeah,
I like
very,
that
very humble.
focus.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I do too.
Yeah, that's interesting. Okay, so in wrapping up, how can people work with you? And I'll link your information so people can find you, but do you work with people in other places where you Zoom with them?
Yes.
Women?
Yes.
Or
Yes.
I just thought I want you to kind of explain, what that looks like and how that works to be able to work with you.
I work with women really from all over. I even have one in England.
Wow.
And we do it over Zoom.
Okay.
And it's very personal and private. And people can contact me really right now via my email. If they want to reach out to me through my email address, they can do that, which is Sandra C. Redmond, and Redmond is REDMOND @gmail.com. And we start off with 10 sessions, and then as we do that, we can just take it from there, but just let the transformation begin, and then we can do another 10 sessions or whatever it takes. I mean, I stayed in the program when I was personally coached for over a year. And then after that, I just saw such a change within me. And the crazy thing is, it didn't just affect my marriage, it affected my relationship with my children too. And my kids, my adult children, have come to me and said, "Mom, wow, we so appreciate what you have done, and we love being with you." Like, oh my goodness, I think because they sense that criticism, kind of that negative mindset I had early on, and now it's more just pro them and excited about what they're doing and embracing their lives and not trying to manage their lives. They're adults, so they can figure it out. They're experts of their own lives. And so it's really changed my relationship with my kids too. So it's been a
the
great
ripple
journey.
effect. It's interesting that they have caught on to that.
I know.
Yeah. Okay. So, and I'll put your email in my show notes
Okay,
too.
great.
But
Thank you.
okay, so in wrapping up, I have my theme this year is growing more in 2024.
Beautiful
So
theme.
thank you. So I'm wondering what you are doing either personally or professionally or both, however you want to answer, to grow this year.
Oh, that's a good question. Let's see. I feel like I'm always in a growth mindset.
Gosh, awesome.
But I'm reading a couple of great books. I want to grow in appreciation and gratitude. And I've been reading a couple of fantastic books on the value of appreciation. And it's just kind of changed my mindset to how powerful appreciation is. And so it's just really, for me, I'm just really wanting to embrace that whole mindset of just appreciating and valuing who I'm with, even the negative experiences, I think there's things that you can appreciate about negative and hard times that you're going through, because they strengthen us and they cause us to grow. And so, so I'd say that's the biggest thing that I'm doing in 2024.
Okay. I love that. You'll have to share those books with me because, yeah. Well, thank you so much for visiting with me and sharing your story. I'm excited to share it with others, and especially with other women, because again, there's always room for growth and improvement. Yes. If they have a great marriage, there's room, and if they're struggling, there's also room, and it's important to have a good resource too in those struggles, because if they can work on this part of their life, like you said, it ripples, the ripple effect of having a great marriage, and then kids recognize it, and even probably friends and everything else. It enriches your whole life. So
absolutely,
yes. Well, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Nancy, for having me on. This is wonderful.
Okay, everybody, that's a wrap on this week's episode. I want to thank you for listening to the Sharing Passion and Purpose podcast. It means the world to me, and I'd love to connect with you. Please follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn at Sharing Passion and Purpose, and Twitter at Passion Sharing. Also, if you like this podcast, it would mean a lot to me for you to subscribe, rate, and review it. And as always, all my show notes will be available on my website, sharingpassionandpurpose.com.